Hello everyone. If you're watching this, you missed day one of our week 8 lecture in Foundations of Technology. Let's go ahead and take a look at what you missed. We are finishing up the group project if you're in period 6. Otherwise, we are just moving on to isometric drawing and orthographic projection. So this is going to be an introduction to technical drawing and really trying to make our drawings convey exactly what we mean and as much information as possible. So we're going for as clear and concise and well communicated drawings as we can manage. All right, now there is an assignment that you guys need to make sure you get to me, which is the reflection from our history project. So please make sure you get that to me by midnight on Wednesday or sooner if you can, so that I can finish grading your projects and give you feedback sooner. Assignment 15, which is isometric drawing practice, is going to be due by Friday at midnight, and this is what we started on today. Let's get to it. So, if you were to draw a cube on a piece of paper, how would you do it? Well, you might do it like this, or like that, or like this. All of these are examples of isometric drawing. That is to say, you can see 3 sides in one picture. And this is a really useful tool to making sure that you can understand that what you're representing is 3-dimensional, right? Because, well, you can see 3 of its sides, and you can assume, or your mind automatically assumes there's more to it. There's depth. That idea of depth is going to be central to making our drawings look nice. So we're going to be doing a 2D illustration of a 3D object, and we're going to show 3 faces of the object in one view. There are 3 types of ways of doing this. There's isometric, oblique, and perspective. Isometric is what we're going to be doing in this class. This is when every single line in every dimension you go is going to represent the same length as it would in proportion to every other line. So it might look a little funny. It might not look quite right the way it would look in real life. Something that might look a little closer to what things would be like in real life would be an oblique view. So here we have 2 kinds of oblique views. We have the cavalier and the cabinet views, but they look a little strange for one reason or another. This kind of view will make the front look a little taller than it is. This will stretch out the top. So both views are not quite the best for technical drawing. And then we have perspective, which looks really nice and really true to what the real world representation would look like. But because everything is going towards these horizon lines, everything is distorted. So we can't get accurate measurements, especially of angles, from this view. So we're going to stick to this. Now, how are we going to construct it? Let's take a look. So isometric is going to be the most 3D. And it's the most widely used type of pictorial representation in engineering and engineering software. And we're going to hopefully take a look at some engineering software in a future lesson. When you draw using isometric graphing paper, which I will be using extensively, you'll see that every single kind of line meets at a 120-degree angle like this, and all the lines are going to be the same length going every direction, so you can represent measurements very accurately using this method. When you go to draw an object using this particular method, you first need to select which 3 sides you're going to show, since you only get 3. So typically, you want to go for a representation that shows the most and shows the most interesting parts of your shape. So you're looking for the best front view. In every case, the front is going to be this thing over here on the left. The right-hand side is going to be this one, and this will be the top. You always want to try to pick the longest dimension to be in the bottom here. You look for the best shape description to be your front view. That is the part of the shape that's going to be the most convoluted or have the most detail. The most natural position is usually used, so if the shape is usually presented in a particular way, when you see it, you want to draw it that way. And you want to try to avoid hidden edges, although this can't always be possible. If there's something crazy going on behind here that we can't see, we might represent that with dashed lines, or we might need to draw some more representations of this particular shape. Now, we are going to be employing something called the box method in our drawings. So the box method involves you drawing a box that is large enough to encompass your shape and no larger first, and then drawing your shape based off of that. It's really important you get your box correctly right off the bat. If you mess up the box, the rest of your shape will look really wonky like this. So use a ruler when appropriate, take your time, do a good job, and then your shape will come out looking nice. So let's take a look at the steps we're going to be taking. First, you want to construct the box. So if this is my shape, I want to count out how wide, how long, how tall it is. I'm going to draw those dimensions. So here I draw the front part of my box first, or rather the right-hand side of it first, then the front, and then the top. It's tricky because even though this side is longer, so normally we wouldn't think of it as the front, in engineering drawing we always refer to this part as the front. And the top. The next step is to always draw the edges that are touching the actual surface of our box. You also might want to label this as the right, this as the front, and this as the top. It's just something you can do. So here are my edges that are touching the box, this one and this one. And from there, I can draw the actual surfaces that are touching the box. So this guy, and this guy, and this guy. And last, you can fill in the hidden edges that you don't see touching the box, which are these two. And there you go. There are no inside faces, but if there were more faces inside here going into the shape, I would draw those next. Sometimes it's useful to have some tonal shading, so if you pick a lighting source, you can then create some crosshatch patterns to create darker areas, or lighter shades for lighter areas. Alright, there's a recap of that same idea. I'm going to skip a bit ahead here a bit to this point right here. If you are going to draw something curved, like a cylinder, you want to convey the idea of it being curved by using straight lines going up and down in this case, since we're looking at it this way, and putting them closer together to create a shade and farther apart to create areas of light. And this can create a really good representation of a curvature that you can't normally represent. Lastly, circles in isometric space are elliptical. That is to say, obviously, if I drew this as a circle, it would look really strange. So it needs to lean down, and when it does, it stops being a perfect circle and becomes an ellipse. So that is something important to note. All right, let's take a look at your assignment and what you guys are going to be doing. On my MCPS, underneath modules, you will find the assignment posted. It is titled A15, Isometric Drawing Practice. Now there are two options. There's a printer-friendly version. If you have a printer and are willing to print it out and then take a picture, you can do that. There's also an online version that lets you draw on it. So you can pick which one is appropriate. I would prefer, if you have a printer, you take advantage of that. But if you don't, obviously that's not a problem. So for those of you with a printer, this is the printer-friendly version. For those of you without it, you'll be completing this red one up here. Let's take a look at what that involves. You're going to be creating isometric drawing of some shapes that I have here for you. You must have a box around each one. You must label all faces facing right blue, up red, and forward green. If you're colorblind, just use the text tool to label them. And all lines should be in the correct locations, and you should double check your work. So let me show you an example over here, in case you've never used this tool before. How do we do this? I would like you to make sure you go up here to select your tool as polyline. Please make sure you're using polyline, otherwise you won't be able to fill in the proper color. Next, we're going to start by drawing a box that is just large enough to encompass our shape. So let's say we start with the right face here. We know it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units deep. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it is 5 units tall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm just going to draw this face. Notice I am following the grid lines. You always want to stick to the grid lines. Do not go rogue. The grid lines are there for a reason. They're all exactly the same length, so you can't mess up. Right up here, there's a fill option. For the box itself, we want it to be transparent so we can see what's going on the inside. Next, we're going to draw this front face over here. The front face is a little tricky to count because 1, 2, 3 would not get us to the top. We need to make sure that we count all the way up. So follow this line and 1, 2. We need to add those in. So this is a total of 5 units tall. We actually already have that length already in this particular drawing because we already measured the front or the right side face, and they will have the same height. The height will not change. So all we need to measure is this length down here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units long. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is the next side. And last but not least, we need to do the top. And to do the top, I don't actually have to measure anything else because I already have everything I need. So let's go ahead and add that in. We have 5 more units up here, 5 this way, and that is our box. Ta-da! All right, next we want to go ahead and draw all the edges that line our, or touch the surface of our box. So I'm going to start with the right face here, but you can certainly start anywhere you like. So let me start by drawing everything that is touching my box over here on the right. So we have 2 down here, then we go up 2, over 2, down 2, 1 over, all the way up, 1, 2, 3 units over, 2 units down, 2 units over, something like that. Once I've drawn it, I want to go ahead and give it a proper color. So everything that is facing towards the right, we're going to make blue. So let's go ahead and go up here to our fill color and make it blue. I don't care what shade of blue, so long as it's blue. All right, what else is touching our box? Well, this top part, right, is obviously touching our box. So let's draw that next. So let's see. What do we want to draw? Let's start by drawing from here, 2 units up, 2 units this way, this way, this way, and this way, and then complete the shape. And this is facing up, so I'm going to give it a red color. Finally, last but not least, we have a face down here that's touching the surface of our box. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that as well. So let's see here. That's going to be 3 units up, all the way to the end, down, and over. Nice little rectangle, and this one is going to be green. Alrighty, so we've drawn everything touching the box. Now we want to work our way in. So what other edges do we need to complete the picture? Well, it's up to you what order you want to draw these in, but I prefer to work down and then up. So from below going up. So down here we have an edge we're missing, an inside edge, so I will draw that next. And this is facing forward, so I want to make sure it's green. Then over here we have this edge we haven't put in yet, and that's going to create this surface that's facing up. Let's go ahead and do that. And it is facing up, so it'll be red. Last but not least, we have this surface and these surfaces in here, so let's add those in. Let's go ahead and say this guy here is going to be facing forward, and therefore will be colored in green. Now there is a slightly tricky part coming up. This area in here has 1, 2, 3 more edges to draw, and actually has 1, 2, 3 more faces to color in. So please make sure you don't skip any of those. That can be a little tricky if they're small and hidden like that. But this area here faces up, and therefore is red. This area right over here faces to the right and should be blue. And last but not least, we have one little smidgen here facing forward. Hopefully you followed all that. If you're doing this on paper, it's a lot easier. Please use a ruler if you are using a paper. That's everything. I hope to see you guys in class next time. Make sure you're keeping up with your work. Have a fantastic rest of your day.